Hi, I'm Tova Abelman. I'm a weight loss coach, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you an overview on my workshop on emotional eating to give you a better sense of what you can expect from attending it. So I'm going to pull out my presentation. So the workshop is called Deconstructing Your Emotional Eating. And like I said, the purpose of this video is to give you an overview or a greater sense of what to expect when attending my emotional eating workshop. I'm going to go through the structure and the flow of the workshop and essentially break down most of the activities that I plan to include. So again, that you know what to expect. I am a weight loss coach, primarily focused on working with people who struggle with emotional eating or binge eating and who also want to lose weight. I'm currently a student in a drama therapy master's program. I have a certificate in integrative nutrition. My undergraduate degree is in biochemistry and molecular biology, and I'm a longtime improviser. And that's going to become relevant, you'll see as I go through the description of the workshop. If you have any questions or concerns, or if you're interested in attending the workshop, please email me. My email is here, tovaabelmancoaching@gmail.com. The workshop itself is primarily embodied and action oriented. It is not a lecture. It's not me just talking at you and giving you a bunch of different information. It really leverages participant participation and interaction. So once you register, sign up for the workshop, you will receive an email from me. And the email will contain the logistics of the workshop, like the date, the time, and the online platform the workshop is going to be held on. There will also be instructions for a prep activity or homework. You can think of it however you would like. And that activity, again, will be detailed in the email, but essentially I will invite you to reflect on your emotional eating and how it impacts your life and your connection to yourself, asking you to consider what keeps you stuck in your patterns, and then to choose a photograph or image and an object that have some kind of a meaning for you in connection to your emotional eating. I would suggest you let your intuition guide you in choosing these items. And the photograph or image and object should carry a personal story and be connected to your emotional eating in either a resilient or a painful way. In the email, I will ask you to have these items with you for the workshop because they're going to be used to share personal stories. And then the email will also ask you to have drawing materials with you because we'll be doing a drawing activity. For the workshop itself, it will start with an opening. And some of the things that I'm going to go over at the beginning of the workshop are who I am, like what I did in this presentation, a brief overview of the workshop. We'll talk about confidentiality. And then also I will suggest that if something does not feel right for you or you don't want to share, that's totally fine. You can always pass. I will advise that you only share what feels right and safe for you to share, but you will need to be willing to have your camera on and to participate to some degree. Like I said, this workshop really leverages participant participation. So if you're the type of person that would come and just leave your camera off the whole time, then this workshop probably isn't for you. And that's a big reason why I want to go over the workshop again, to give you a better sense of what this workshop entails. So you can decide that it feels right for you, it might be helpful for you, or you can decide that this workshop actually isn't something that would be helpful for you. So then we'll move into the first activity and we will go around and say our name, 2 to 3 sentences about who we are personally or professionally, and a feeling that we have as we begin the workshop. And then right after each person shares the above, the group will reflect back the essence of what was shared with a sound or a movement. Don't need to reiterate what was just shared, just the essence of it. The purpose of this activity is that it's an icebreaker and it facilitates low-key self-disclosure, empathy as we're picking up on people's emotions, and it's a simple warm-up to embodiment, which is going to be a big piece of the workshop. Next, we'll pass around a few mimed objects and emotions. And the purpose of this activity is that it is a warm-up, mostly to space work and embodiment, focusing primarily on physicality. Example objects that we might pass around are a ladybug, a candle, and then I will have 1 or 2 participants suggest and initiate passing around an object. Then we'll move into passing around emotions like craving, peace, and again, giving participants an option to initiate that as well. Passing around emotions is more abstract than objects. It allows us to explore how it feels to hold an emotion, like how does it feel to hold a positive emotion versus something that we might consider a negative emotion as we give it shape and weight and texture. So it's a little bit more abstract, but a really interesting activity. Let's see. Next, next we'll move into scene work. And the scene work activity adds dialogue and verbal expressing to what we were just doing with the embodiment and the physicality. The purpose of this activity is that it is a warm-up to expressing, embodying, and enacting. We start playfully in these scenes, and then we gradually progress to themes that we are going to be exploring in the workshop and or that are relevant to participants. This activity is distant, so this is largely fictional. These scenes are not intended to be you sharing your highly personal material. You are playing a character. It's, like I said, fictional characters. Although you can inform your scene work with personally relevant themes, that's not the purpose of this activity. Again, totally fine, but this is a distanced, playful, fictional distance activity. Now, even with that, some people understandably might find it difficult, and I totally understand that and I respect it. So this activity can be tweaked. Again, you can pass, you can let me know what you need. But one example of how it can be tweaked is if dialogue and coming up with actual sentences is not for you, we can just have you do one word, right? So we can do a scene with two people and each person will say one word. So one person might say mustard, the other person, the only word they say is ketchup. And a lot can be conveyed with just one word, right? So in those scenes, you're really focusing on the tone of voice, how you're saying the word, your facial expressions, your gesture, how you use your body and take up space. And you do have that dialogue piece, it's just a word and it's not an actual sentence, but a lot can still be conveyed and you can still get a lot out of this activity. So that's, again, just one example of how this can be modified depending on the participants' needs. Next, we are going to put together as a group a collaborative story about a fictional character who is struggling with a craving. So we'll have a volunteer, and we might run through this one or two times with one or two volunteers, depending on the time. And this person is going to enact the character story as it unfolds. And again, this character is not the person. This is still fictional and distanced. Although now we're moving into themes and situations that might be more personally relevant. And so in this collaborative story, the character is going to get to a point where they need to decide what to do. For example, do they just give in to their craving? Do they leave the situation? Do they make a healthy snack? How did they respond? There are so many different ways that a person can respond to a craving, and we're going to explore that in this activity. Next, we're going to move into sharing personal objects and photos. I might do this as well, depending on time and number of participants, to model self-disclosure and just show how to do the activity. And then depending on time, we will share a personal space that we have been that is meaningful and somehow connected to emotional eating, to your emotional eating. You will put yourself in that place and describe it for us as though we are all there with you, describing your felt experience of the moment, of the environment, using the sounds that are there, the objects in that, you can, describing the objects, what you're smelling, the people who are there. And the purpose of this is to express your stories and experiences with action and embodiment, and that can provide a more visceral and deepened experience. Now we're going to move into drawing a landscape of emotional eating, of your emotional eating, or a specific memory that you have of an emotional eating experience. I'll give you about 10 minutes to draw this. You can turn off your camera for this. And this drawing does not need to be linear, so it's totally fine if you don't think that you draw super well. This is intended to come from an intuitive place. It can be abstract, and it really allows you to give shape to your feelings. It's an expression of where you are in the moment. And for this, not everyone needs to share their drawing. So you can draw it and not share it at all. And then we're going to bring to life some of these drawings. So the first person will share their drawing with the group and then, describing it, what it represents, that kind of thing. And then they're going to choose several people. The total number of people will depend on the time, to portray specific elements of their landscape. So person A will explain each element, what it represents, the connection that they have to this element. And then the person taking on the role will then embody it with movement and give it voice for a little bit. And then person A will have a chance to correct, say, that doesn't sound right. I don't think that that piece would actually say this. Changing the tone or the emotion or whatever feels right for person A. They can have a chance to correct that enactment if it does not feel right. Then once that process is done, all the roles will be brought to life in a kind of like scene. So that'll go on, and then person A will end by titling the enactment. Next, there will be a brief talk by me about the connection between thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, behaviors, and contexts that underlie emotional eating or binge eating. I'll give you about 10 minutes for you to reflect on how those domains impact you and your eating. And really, the whole process of the workshop builds up to this by exploring your emotional eating from different perspectives and flexibly relating to your emotional eating to give you a better sense of how those areas, the thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, behaviors, and context, impact you personally. And then in that 10 minutes, you can write down specific thoughts, behaviors, physical sensations, and contexts that trigger you and influence your emotional eating, because these are the areas to start to enact changes in your life. This part is totally private and personal and will not be shared with the group. Nobody will share this. This is really what the workshop builds on for you to be able to look at how these domains are impacting you and start to identify changes that you can make. Then we'll move into the closing. And in the closing, I will ask you to reflect on your experience in the workshop and identify one small change that you are inspired to make or something that you want to hold in your awareness after the workshop. Then we'll go around and each person will share what that is for them. And after that person shares, the group will reflect it back with sound and movement, similar to what we did in the beginning of the group. Again, reflecting back the essence of what was shared, not reiterating it exactly. If you, again, have any questions, concerns, or are interested in attending the workshop, please email me. My email is tovaablemancoaching@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from you, hearing your thoughts on this workshop, and actually seeing you in a workshop. All right. Thank you so much.